The harvest had come to Woolpit, a small village in the countryside of Suffolk, England. In the dappled light of one late summer in the 12th century, reapers worked the fields near the ancient wolf-trapping pits from which the village took its name. But on this particular day, their work halted as an extraordinary sight emerged from the shadows of one such pit. 2 children, skin tinged a peculiar shade of green and dressed in strange, unfamiliar clothes. Unable to communicate in any language the villagers understood, the children seemed bewildered and lost. According to William of Newburgh, the chronicler who first recorded the tale, the harvesters, unsure of what else to do, seized the children and brought them into the village. In a separate account by Ralph of Coggeshall, a knight by the name of Sir Richard de Calne intervened. Moved by the strange sight, he took the children to his manor, where they were treated with great care. Both chroniclers noted that the children refused food for days, leaving their caretakers anxious. No bread, no fruit, no cooked meals could tempt them. It seemed their fate was sealed by starvation, until one day, raw beans were placed before them. The children, at first mistaking the bean stalks for the edible portion, wept when they found no food inside. Eventually, the beans were shelled, and the children devoured them eagerly. Time passed, and the children slowly adapted. They learned the language of the people around them, and their green skin faded to the natural tones of the English countryside. But the boy, frail from the start, did not live long after being baptized. The girl, however, grew stronger. Ralph of Coggeshall described her as sharp-witted, though possessing a wildness that some found troubling. He wrote that she was, quote, very wanton and impudent as she matured. Despite this, she integrated into Sir Richard de Calne's household and eventually married a man from the town of King's Lynn, where she lived out her days in relative normalcy, or as normal as one might expect after such a strange beginning. But it wasn't the children's physical appearance that intrigued the villagers most. It was the story they eventually told. After learning English, the girl spoke of coming from a place called St. Martin's Land, a country where the sun never fully rose. They lived in a kind of permanent twilight, she said, in a land that shimmered green. How they arrived in Woolpit was a mystery even to them. She recounted that they'd been herding their father's cattle when a sound like distant church bells drew them into a cave. Wandering in the darkness, they found themselves lost, until they finally stumbled into the bright light of a world they'd never known. When they tried to return to the cave, they found no trace of the entrance, as though it had disappeared from the earth altogether. The villagers were left with more questions than answers. Who were these children? Where had they come from? And perhaps most unsettling, what had they left behind? The Chroniclers. The tale of the green children of Woolpit might have faded into the haze of folklore had it not been for 2 medieval chroniclers, William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall. Though separated by geography and perhaps temperament, both recorded this strange story in the context of larger historical works, adding their unique voices in a mystery that endures to this day. William of Newburgh, writing the Historia Rerum Anglicarum in 1189, approached the tale with skepticism, as any good chronicler of the medieval period might. From the Augustinian Priory of Newburgh, 200 miles to the north of Woolpit in Yorkshire, William had a reputation for collecting stories from travelers and witnesses, weaving them into his larger histories of England. The story of the Green Children, however, tested William's reason. He acknowledged that its truth was, quote, asserted by many, but admitted that the story had long been in doubt for him. Ultimately, he accepted the tale, swayed by the testimony of, quote, so many and such competent witnesses, though he left it to readers to form their own conclusions. Ralph of Coggeshall, on the other hand, brought a more detailed and personal touch to his retelling. Writing in his Chronicum Anglicarum decades later, around 1220, Ralph claimed to have received the story directly from Sir Richard de Calne, the knight who sheltered the children in his version. as abbot of the Cistercian monastery in Coggeshall, located just 30 miles from Woolpit. Ralph's proximity to the events and his connection to those involved gave his account an air of first-hand reliability, even if it was penned years after William's. Today, scholars tend to agree that something remarkable happened in Woolpit, but was there an explanation more grounded in reality? The Flemish theory. Understanding the larger backdrop of war, migration, and social upheaval of 12th century England provides context for the various theories that seek to explain the origins of these mysterious children. At the heart of the most prominent theory lies the influx of Flemish immigrants into England. During the 12th century, many Flemish immigrants from Flanders, now a part of Belgium, settled in eastern England, including Suffolk. They were drawn to the region for economic opportunities, particularly in weaving and trade. However, these immigrants often found themselves caught in the crossfire of England's internal conflicts, particularly during a period known as the Anarchy. This was a brutal civil war between King Stephen and Empress Matilda, a struggle that left the countryside devastated and unstable. Flemish mercenaries, many of whom had come to England in search of fortune, played a significant role in this conflict, often siding with King Stephen. Flemish communities, despite their peaceful pursuits, became associated with this foreign fighting force. As the Civil War ended and Matilda's son, Henry II, took the throne in 1154, one of his early acts was to suppress the Flemish mercenaries who had fought against him during the Anarchy. These foreign fighters, who had remained in England following the conflict, were seen as a destabilizing presence. This crackdown culminated in the Battle of Fornham in 1173, a decisive encounter just miles from Woolpit, where Henry II's forces claimed victory against a contingent of rebellious nobles in command of 3,000 Flemish mercenaries. The consequences were fatal for many Flemish soldiers and settlers, whose lives were extinguished in this violent purge. The Flemish theory suggests that the Green children were survivors, orphans of this violent upheaval, wandering through the countryside after the destruction of their community. Their green skin, in this theory, is explained by a condition known as hypochromic anemia, or green sickness, caused by severe iron deficiency. This form of malnutrition was not uncommon among the poor and displaced in medieval times, especially during periods of widespread conflict. Their inability to speak English fits with the idea that they were Flemish, a language unfamiliar to the local population, which would have added to the sense of otherworldliness that surrounded them. Even the reference to St. Martin's Land aligns with this theory. St. Martin of Tours was a revered saint in Flemish culture, widely venerated by the immigrant population in England. Moreover, there was a village near Woolpit called Fornham St. Martin, which had been directly affected by the Battle of Fornham. It is plausible that the children were referencing this village or a similar site as their home, a connection lost on the bewildered villagers who encountered them. Additionally, their description of living in a twilight world where the sun never fully shone could be a distorted memory of life in the dense forests or lowlands of Flanders, where fog and shade were common. For children traumatized by war and displacement, such memories may have blurred the line between reality and imagination. Of mystical realms. While the Flemish theory offers a compelling explanation rooted in historical events, it doesn't fully satisfy everyone. Critics point out that if the children were indeed from Flanders, someone in the village, particularly Sir Richard de Calne, would likely have recognized their language or their style of dress. Additionally, while hypochromic anemia could cause a pale greenish complexion, the vivid green color described in medieval accounts remains difficult to explain, casting doubt on this otherwise grounded theory. Another approach frames the story of the Green Children within the context of medieval folklore and superstition. In 12th century England, the line between reality and the supernatural was blurred. Stories of hidden subterranean worlds, other worlds as they were known, were common in the folklore of the time. Such places were believed to exist below ground, inhabited by mysterious beings, like fairies and the Tuatha De Danann of Irish folklore. The Tuatha De Danann, a race of godlike figures associated with magic and mystery, were said to have retreated into the earth after being defeated by the eventual inhabitants of Ireland. These beings, often depicted as otherworldly, were associated with unusual powers and could sometimes interact with the human world in cryptic ways. Caves were often considered portals to these mystical realms, and the children's sudden appearance from a pit might have tapped into the villagers' deep-seated beliefs about such places. Their green color and peculiar behavior could have been interpreted as signs they were from a mystical realm beyond the reach of ordinary mortals, rather than displaced foreign children. The UFO theory. In the evolving mystery of the Green Children of Woolpit, one of the most fantastical modern interpretations is the idea that these children were not from this Earth at all, but from another world entirely, perhaps extraterrestrials. This theory gained traction as stories of the children began to shift and take on more contemporary elements, reflecting the growing fascination with space and the unknown. One example of this is an apparent retelling from 1887, which places the children not in England, but in a small village in Spain near Banjos. In this version, the children are found near a cave, wearing clothing described as metallic, an almost sci-fi detail that would be right at home in modern UFO folklore. The Spanish account, like the Woolpit story, describes the children as having green skin and speaking an unknown language. The boy dies shortly after being found, while the girl survives long enough to learn the local language and recount a tale of a land bathed in perpetual twilight. She explains that she and her brother were, quote, pushed through something before finding themselves in this new world, a description that invites speculation about portals or wormholes, familiar tropes in extraterrestrial theories. Despite its eerie similarities to the Woolpit story, the Spanish version was exposed as a likely fabrication. It appears to be a near word-for-word rehash of the original legend, published in 1965 by John Macklin, with a few modern twists. Yet this hasn't stopped authors from weaving new details into the original story, further blending it into the growing body of UFO and alien lore. Today, the story of the Green Children of Woolpit remains one of the most mysterious tales from medieval England. Whether they were refugees from a war-torn land, visitors from a mystical realm, or something far stranger, the Green Children serve as a reminder that history is not just the domain of kings and battles. It is shaped by mysteries that defy easy explanation, moments when the boundaries between the known and the unknown blur, leaving us to wonder what lies beyond. Were the Green Children of Woolpit extraterrestrials, beings from another realm, or simply orphans from a war-torn land? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching Dark 5. Like and subscribe to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of this world and beyond.